Hey there! So today's video is going to be a continuation of the one I started on my Hypnosis for Childbirth class. And so it's going to cover classes 3, 4. Okay, so real quick, I just want to talk for a second about contractions. I should have probably put this in my first video, but I didn't think about it. A lot of the hypnobirthing, hypnobabies techniques actually, instead of calling contractions, call them surges or pressure waves. My instructor didn't really make this distinction, and I kind of wish that she would have, because thinking of it as a surge or a pressure wave obviously helps promote that sense of pressure rather than pain, because when you think of contractions, typically you think of a painful thing. So just thinking a different word for it can help promote that pressure feeling and promote more of a sense of well-being rather than pain and panic and whatnot. So class 3 was actually mostly about birth plan. I actually did my birth plan video, so I will link that below if you're interested in seeing it. In that video I also cover a lot of what my instructor recommended could be on the birth plan and what she would recommend not putting on the birth plan as well. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look at my video below. Okay, so next she kind of just reviewed a little bit of what the partners are supposed to be doing with the scripts that they have. Again, last time I talked about this in my previous video, but basically when the partners say their script, they're supposed to have a slow pacing and a smooth intonation, and that helps promote relaxation. And then she talks a little bit about using hypnosis for, obviously, pain management. And this was really good, and it really helped me. All along, I've kind of been, as I've been practicing various techniques and whatnot, I've been worried, like, am I doing it right? Is this even going to work? And because, like I said before, I'm not a big fan of pain, and especially, like, giving birth seems to be, like, the worst pain imaginable. So, as I've been practicing, I've kind of had that in the back of my mind, just wondering if it's going to work, if I'm doing it right so that it will work. But here she kind of talked about how sometimes you really do have to fake it till you make it, because you're not going to be in a hypnotic state the entire time, and most likely you will feel some discomfort. I know I did talk about previously some of the YouTube videos that I watched and how a lot of women report only feeling pressure. That would be really nice, but again, I do want to have realistic expectations, and if that happens, great, and if it doesn't, at least I'm more or less prepared for it. So basically, she said, fake it till you make it. Sometimes you will feel pain, or, I mean, hopefully I can make that into pressure. But I just have to commit to, pushing through and forcing myself to relax by using, the techniques that I've learned and visualization and whatnot. So that really helped me, kind of gave me just some peace about it, and so yeah. I did want to go over a few of the techniques that I will be using. One is hand warming. There's different ways that I can put myself into relaxation with this. I can use the CD that I was given with the class, where my instructor kind of talks us through it. My husband can talk me through it in his own way. So there's really no one way to do it. But basically, hand warming is where you create warmth in your fingertips, kind of move it along into your palm, and you touch your abdomen, and basically you're visualizing the warmth moving from your palm into your uterus, creating a feeling of relaxation and comfort. So it's this whole idea of visualization, so it's changing my focus from, whatever I'm feeling with the contraction or surge, and basically putting my focus on, creating a warmth in my hand and transferring that to my uterus, and, how that creates comfort and whatnot. The switch is also another one that I like. Basically, you visualize your brain that kind of, it comes down, the spinal cord is like just a thick electrical cord that goes into a light switch. And so basically you can turn that switch on or off, and obviously when it's off, everything that's not needed for, survival or labor progression is basically just turned off. And that one, I really like this one. I think that it will work well for me in labor. So, and then another one is color dissociation. This one is wherever you're feeling discomfort, you think, you visualize this area, think of whatever color you want in that area, then you visualize the color going out from that area into like a circle in front of you, and then eventually more of the color goes out, more of the color goes out, and then it just disappears. And then this actually really works. I've had just with back discomfort and other discomfort, and then I do this and it's completely gone. So I really like that one as well. So basically, hypnosis uses the visualization and relaxation to help change your focus from discomfort from the contraction or surge to, something else, the warm feeling, or, that help create that sense of well-being. Okay, so next she talked about how your beliefs about yourself or your life theme can influence your birth. For example, if you kind of have this view of yourself that everything always works out for me, or the opposite, I have to, or nothing works out for me, or I have to work hard to get what I want, how these beliefs can factor into what happens during labor and birth. For example, if you have the belief that that I have to work hard to get what I want, how will that kind of transfer to your labor? Most likely, you're going to think that you'll get through it, but you really have to work hard. And basically, obviously, this can change or influence the physiology of labor with oxytocin release or adrenaline release. Hopefully not, but. And so she basically just wanted us to be aware and kind of think of what we perceive our life theme to be. And if it is something more negative, then start to look for to change that life theme. Like if I thought that, I have to work hard to get what I want, or nothing goes well for me, just start looking for things that do go well for me, no matter how small. And so that should help, so that it kind of creates, again, that anchor, so that you have something to reference when you're in labor, and hopefully, and if the thoughts do come up where you're like, nothing goes well for me, that hopefully won't be internalized, and you can think about all these other little things where they did go well for you, and continue from there. Okay, for class 4, she went over the different stages of labor. I really found this informative, and I learned a lot. So the first stage is pre-labor. Now this is not really considered labor. Basically, you're having contractions, but they don't really get longer or stronger. And you can feel them more usually when you're active. So when you lay down or rest, they usually become less intense or just go away completely. And also, if you take like a bath or something, a warm bath, then you will usually go away because the warm water causes the muscles to relax. So there's also no significant cervical change, and it can also last for days apparently. So this isn't Braxton Hicks contractions. They're kind of, I guess, like the next stage up from that, but my instructor said that you can actually feel these sometimes. It can last for, several days. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know that there was something different than, Braxton Hicks that, seems like it's harder to read if it's real labor or not. Next is early labor. This is where contractions are approximately 5 to 20 minutes apart and last about 30 to 60 seconds. Now this is kind of the bulk of where the labor is, at least for first-time moms. It can last approximately, or an average, 12 to 18 hours. And that's again just for a first-time mom. The cervix starts to thin and open, so it starts to dilate and efface. So usually it's about 0 to 3 centimeters in dilation. And so basically this is where you would probably start kind of timing contractions every once in a while just to kind of get a reference. So I didn't know how you would time contractions, but basically they're timed from beginning to beginning for, you know, minutes apart, and obviously beginning to end for duration. And strategies for early labor is basically just to distract yourself, because even in early labor you don't really know if it's pre-labor or early labor. You don't know if it's going to end up with a baby. So, I mean, it could be, you know, day 1 of pre-labor, but it seems like it's early labor. So, she just said the best thing that you should do is distract yourself. You can go to work, and, you know, just find projects, you know, to do around the house. Just try to distract yourself as best as possible. Also, a big thing is to rest during this time, just because obviously you don't know when or how long you're going to be in labor, and you want as much rest as possible. Another thing that she recommends is eating complex carbs like pasta or oatmeal and that sort of thing, just because it lasts longer in your body, so it will give you energy for longer. And a good way that she said to help determine whether or not this is, you know, real early labor that's going to result in a baby or not is kind of what comes out of you. Now you can lose the mucus plug, you know, weeks before you give birth, but if you have what's called bloody show, if it's bloody or anything, then that's usually a sign that you're getting closer to delivering at least. And it's not like an, you know, if this happens then you're for sure in labor thing, but it just kind of gives you a good idea. And then also, obviously, with your bag breaking, usually the water doesn't break until later on in labor with most women. I think there's only like 12 to 15% or something where the water bag breaks early in the early stage of labor. And then another sign that you are in early labor as opposed to further along is that you can talk through the contractions. Usually it's pretty easy to distract yourself early on, but once you get to the later stages of labor, you're not going to be able to talk and whatnot. So next, active labor is about 3 to 5 minutes apart. Definitely have stronger and intense surges. And again, like I said, in this stage you most likely won't be able to talk through the surges. You'll have to, this is where I would be employing the hypnosis and deep relaxation and whatnot. Usually this is about 4 to 10 centimeters. And the big thing is that the surges become more intense. And that's one of the key things that you know that you're in active labor. And strategies during the active labor section is obviously the deep abdominal breathing, hypnosis, so all of the techniques that I've been practicing I would be using during active labor. I wouldn't use it, she doesn't recommend using it in early labor because, again, usually you can distract yourself pretty easily and you don't know if you're going to end up with a baby. Positions that are usually most comfortable during active labor is any kind of forward tilt position, so you can use like a Pilates ball. You can use I think I mentioned in my previous video, like your partner. You can kind of lean on your partner and he can hold your weight. You want to put your attention on a neutral sensation, so kind of, again, using the hypnosis and the visualization. And this is where, previously I talked about the hand drop that my husband will use, and also the hand on the shoulder as hypnotic anchors, and this is where he would be doing that, and he would also be using the narratives that he's been practicing to help put me into that hypnotic state. So next she kind of talked about when to know to go to the hospital. Obviously if you're having a home birth, that's not an issue, or obviously when to go to like a birthing center or hospital. Now, obviously you don't want to go to the hospital too early. I know me, I would love to go to the hospital and, you know, be about 6 to 7 centimeters dilated. Now, obviously that's going to be in the active labor stage. And so one thing that she pointed out is that your partner needs to know basically where everything is, you know, the hospital bag, car seat. So I'm just going to have like a pile. And then I'm also going to have a list of stuff that we need to grab last minute, like our phone chargers, you know, laptop and whatnot, just so that we make sure that we get everything. And he also needs to obviously know like where my insurance card is in my wallet, and just little things like that, because especially if I'm, you know, going in and out of hypnosis with the contractions, then I'm not going to want to, you know, answer questions at the hospital and have to find where, you know, random stuff is, and running around the house trying to figure out where, you know, certain things are that we want to take. So I just need to make sure that he knows, you know, where everything is, so I don't have to deal with that when I'm, you know, in active labor. And she kind of has a general rule of thumb. Like, for example, if your car is parked like 50 feet away, a good way to know that it's time to go to the hospital is when the woman in labor is like, how am I even going to get out there, because contractions are happening so frequently, and they're so intense that, you know, you have to take a couple steps and then stop because you have a contraction, and take a couple steps and stop because you have a contraction. That's when she recommends it's time to go to the hospital. But so we'll see. Now, one good thing that she pointed out is when you get to the hospital, if you are using hypnosis, obviously you're going to be more relaxed, and so the hospital staff may not think that you're as far along as you are, because they're used to, you know, women screaming, or, you know, just women obviously being in a lot of discomfort during this time when they come to the hospital. So they may not think that you're further as far along as you are. So letting them know that you are using hypnosis is probably a good idea, and if they don't know what that means, then, you know, your partner can explain it. But I thought that was interesting, and I can see how that would be the case a lot of times. So during transition, that's kind of the last stage of labor, like right before you push. Usually this is apparently a short amount of time, and this is also where women tend to get more vocal. My instructor recommends using, you know, low, long tones. That's where you kind of hear moaning. When you use high tones, that actually causes the epiglottis to close, and it actually causes tension in the muscles in your body, apparently. So using the low tones kind of keeps everything open and relaxed. So then we have the second stage of labor, which is where, you know, you're completely dilated, and this is where the pushing starts. And it usually, for first-time moms, apparently lasts about 2 hours. And this is because basically the baby just has to stretch out your tissue. And so what may happen is that, you know, you push and the baby comes out a little bit, and then it will recede a little bit. So it's kind of just this back and forth thing as your tissue stretches. And that's why it can take a long time. And she said that you may want to change positions. You can squat. You could lay down on the bed, which is really kind of the worst position for you know, pushing and whatnot. You can also get like on your hands and knees, or, you know, be in a tub for a water birth or whatnot. So basically this kind of second stage of labor goes through your baby being born. And there's actually a third stage of labor, and that is delivering the placenta. which can take about 5 to 20 minutes. So basically, after you have your baby, obviously the placenta has to come out. They have to check it to make sure all of it came out, and they want to make sure that you're not bleeding as well. So I didn't know this, but sometimes they will come in and massage your uterus, and apparently that can be really uncomfortable. So she recommends using the Hypnosis for this, and also if you're getting, stitches for a tear or episiotomy, to use the Hypnosis for that. But I just thought that was interesting. I didn't know that they would come in and push really hard on your uterus to get things to stop bleeding. One thing that she's also said that was interesting is that putting baby, one of the good reasons to put baby on your abdomen right after birth, not only, is it a good psychological attaching time for the two of you, but it actually causes more oxytocin to be released, and so it helps kind of get the placenta out, and it helps stop bleeding. So I thought that was interesting. And then also having baby on your abdomen helps regulate baby's temperature. Obviously, because he's next to you and you're warm. Obviously, it's good to throw a blanket on you and whatnot. But our instructor said that usually babies, the need for babies going in under a radiant warmer is diminished if you just put baby on the mom's abdomen right after birth. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed these videos on our Hypnosis for Childbirth class. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.